Some other important policy news today. The president announcing a border czar to oversee immigration policy named Tom Homan. He once told Congress immigrants need to be worried about facing arrest, that those in the country should be afraid, that was a goal of policy. And as acting head of ICE, he helped, of course, launch the family separation policy. The impact is still felt with thousands of displaced persons around the country. A New York Times video today reveals this is the youngest known child taken from their parents, 4 months old.
Ne gândeam la un trei fericit. Nu năcăjit.
Thank you. Do you agree that states need modern voting machines that produce a voter-verified paper ballot?
Happy?
What you see there as a part of the New York Times reporting is just how young these detentions are getting. This policy continues, although, as you know, the Trump administration has claimed that it backed off so-called zero tolerance. Now, this top immigration official last year also made waves with something that continues to resonate today, because we are seeing more and more detention facilities, something we covered on the show last night. Well, the Trump administration has claimed these centers are not really detention camps. They're more like summer camp.
The best way to describe them is to be more like a summer camp. These individuals have access to 24/7 food and water. There's basketball courts, there's exercise classes, there's soccer fields that we put in there.
Summer camp. Those were outrageous comments to many at the time. And today you're looking at a brand new music video. This is debuting today. It is called, as a satire, quote, Camp America. The musician Vic Mensa using this footage and talking about how children were sleeping on the ground and forced to be in cages.
So much fun, you know it's kind of the days, playing hide and go seek inside of your cage. Daddy loves you, so he sent you away to Camp America.
I'm joined now by Reverend Al Sharpton, host of Politics Nation, and someone who's worked on these civil rights issues and has covered and discussed the immigration challenges under this administration with us before. When you look at all this action on immigration, when you look at it in the culture, that new video, is this still, in your mind, the face of Trump's immigration policy, is children in cages?
No doubt about it. You recall, I went down to the Texas border with an ecumenical group, and they were arguing then that, well, we were just going to do this for a short period of time. We're not dealing with breaking up families. And they have done that over and over again. And I think people need to look at, Ari, and I give you a lot of credit for showing it. We're looking at a 4-month-old baby. I mean, who are we as a country that we can look at a 4-month baby separated from their parents? At the same time, you're going to appoint a person who said that immigrants need to be afraid of being arrested, and as the new czar.
This is
same day.
This is the child here on the screen.
This is the child.
What does it say that the administration has moved to be more aggressive, that there was what was described as a, quote, purge at DHS to bring in more of these people, that Mr. Homan, as you mentioned, the ICE director I want to play, they're doubling down on this. While there's understandably a lot of other news and controversy, they're doubling down on this. Look at this Trump official I'm talking about, Homan. Take a look.
Sanctuary cities, in my opinion, they're un-American. That's not the America I grew up in.
Let's protect American citizens as much as you're fighting for the illegal alien.
If you want to blame somebody for deaths in custody, then blame the Democrats.
You have to put the blame on the parents.
You're looking at outrage. First of all, when you say we're fighting for American people, not others, it is American people that want a humane immigration policy. We're not talking about charity here. We're talking about people that are seeking asylum for reasons of instability, crime, or whatever, that we as a nation has a process to see whether or not they can gain asylum here, and we respect those that are here. He has redefined Americans as people that don't care about anybody, that will snatch 4-month babies out of people's arms, and is saying that's the American way, our one kind of culture, or everybody else be damned, and we don't care what happens to the rest of the world. That is not being American.
I want to ask you about the politics of this, too, because that's a big part of this. You are not only known for the work you do in the civil rights you are, I'll say it if you want, you are also an important figure in this Democratic primary. You've been not only interviewing the candidates, but I know you talk to a lot of them, fair?
Yes, I do.
When you talk to these Democratic candidates, do you get the impression that immigration is something that the Democratic Party and potentially the nominee are going to actually go after this time? Because as you know, there have been a lot of cycles where the politics of this seem to be Democrats playing defense.
I think that some will and others will not. I've encouraged all of them that we must go after the immigration policy because, one, it is something that Donald Trump has used in a very negative way. And secondly, you cannot do global politics without people around the world looking at that four-month-old baby and others saying, what kind of people are we dealing with here? For them to now, in many ways, double down on this kind of immoral, barbaric kind of policy is something that will affect us in terms of global politics. And if Democratic candidates don't stand up and call them out on it, then what is the difference? We need to say this is wrong, this is immoral. We need an immigration policy. Nobody's talking about just opening up the doors, but we need a process that is fair, and we certainly should in no way, shape, or form participate in taking children from their parents.
I appreciate your vigor on that, and I will note here as we continue to cover this, 13,200 unaccompanied children right now in the custody of the Trump administration because of the choices of this policy. We'll stay on it. I know you will as well. Reverend Sharpton. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.